Everybody, put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms.
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
It's my rifle, it's my gun, this is for fighting, it's for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Firearms Friday. Hello and good morning to you, my friends, my fellow cohorts, my fellow resilient citizens, and everything else we like to call you around here. Welcome to the Michael Dukes Show, Friday edition. It is Firearms Friday, and we are broadcasting live across the state of Alaska on this, your favorite radio station and or FM translator. Hello and good morning. Today is the day of the week where we dive into issues related to guns and the Second Amendment and anything related to firearms. That's what it's all about here this morning. I still remember the conversation with my then boss and friend Perry, who surprisingly at the time was not much of a gun guy, and said, "Can you stop talking about gun stuff in the middle of the week because it's just," he's like, it was boring to him. Okay, all right, I get it. So how about I just all consolidate it down into one day of the week? Okay, we can do that. And thus Firearms Friday was born. And that's good. I mean, that's it's good. And here we are, whatever it is, I think 15 years later, doing that one day a week thing. Surprisingly enough, he is now a fan of the firearm stuff because, there's no atheist in a foxhole, and he's seen all the crazy stuff that's going on out there. And now sometimes when we meet and talk, he's like, so tell me what's the best gun for this or that or the other thing. Or it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny to watch this kind of stuff happen and to see where it goes. But Firearms Friday is all about demystifying the firearm to try and bring about some understanding and to get above what the talking heads are talking about. Because a lot of times what you're seeing in the mainstream news is, I guess I could say inaccurate. Sometimes I think is just intentionally deceptively wrong. And that's why we started doing it. I mean, I got sick and tired of watching the bobbleheads on TV get it so wrong when it came to firearms, especially in their commentary sections and when they were talking about specific incidents and everything else. And it was just like, oh, you people, oh man. So anyway, here we are on this beautiful Friday, and I hope you're ready for a big weekend and are getting ready for a little downtime and enjoying it. This is, in my opinion, the best way to kick off the weekend. I like to call it my 2-hour therapy session, where I get to talk about all the things that are important to me and get paid for it. It's like a reverse therapy session where I get paid to sit there and tell you my thoughts on all this kind of stuff. So today, what do we got? Well, I don't have any guests today. I was working on a couple, but it just didn't work out. But that's okay, because there is so much to talk about that I wanted to, we're going to be stretched into this for a while for sure. Also, of course, at the end of the show, we'll be joined by my friend Willie Waffle from wafflemovies.com, who's going to come in and give us the rundown, the lowdown on all the entertainment stuff for the weekend, and if you're going to be watching a little TV or going to the movies or whatever, hopefully he'll give you some good advice on what to watch and what not to watch, etc. So, how are we going to get started today? Well, we've got a lot of stories. I'm going to be talking in just a little bit about this decision by a U.S. District Court judge that says illegal immigrants have the right, they have Second Amendment rights. Now, this is an issue that is... well, I'll be honest. My first reaction when I heard this was I was a little outraged. Okay. But then I thought about it some more. And it puts me in a bit of a conundrum because I am a Second Amendment absolutist, which means I believe that the Second Amendment is inviolate, that most of the regulations that the federal government has placed on firearms and the right to self-defense are illegal, unconstitutional, and wrong, should be repealed. That's kind of, it's just an absolutist that we have the right delineated, not given or granted by the Constitution, but delineated by the Constitution, and that these rights are inherent in all people. And so I'd had to wrestle with this over the last week, and I'm not the only one. The entire Second Amendment community seems to be kind of at odds with each other on this, and I've got some thoughts on it. So we're going to talk about that here in just a little bit, and I want to get your take on it as well. What are your thoughts on this judge, Judge Sharon Johnson Coleman, who in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of Illinois has decided that the possession of a handgun by this illegal alien was not a violation of U.S. Code 18922G5, even though that's specifically what it says. She basically said that it is unconstitutional. So we'll talk about that a little bit, get some words down on that. We're also going to talk about something that happened in gun-free Canada. Oh, Canada. Some stuff that is just, well, it's just flat out crazy. It is just flat out crazy. And the citizens of Canada and in Toronto specifically are, well, they're kind of outraged. And I think with good reason, quite honestly. So we're going to talk about that as well. We've got the latest scare. You know, we've heard about straw purchase guns. We've heard about ghost guns, but have you heard about zombie guns? That's right. Zombie guns. It's the latest craze sweeping the community. The gun control people have got it. They've got zombie guns. I mean, say it with me now. This is, so what exactly is we're going to get into that. We are going to get into that. Another report has now come out on a shooting. Remember the Uvalde report and how scathing that was? Remember the reports that happened after the Sutherland Springs massacre in Texas that was stopped by an armed citizen? Remember those reports and the failure? Oh, the new report from Lewiston, Maine has now come out. And even though folks in Maine, some of the Democrats there have been pushing for more gun control in the wake of that Lewiston mass shooting, turns out that report came out and they have got some finger pointing going on here that is just, well, I guess it won't be that surprising if you've been following along with the story. You'd be like, yeah, they should. Oh, yeah. I mean, and there are some massive, massive similarities to what's going on in that with that as well as the Uvalde report, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're going to go over that as well. But most importantly, we're going to talk with you today. We're going to open up the phone lines and we're going to see what you have to say, because that's one of my favorite parts of Fridays, is to chat with you about anything that's firearm or gun related. And I was going to announce the phone number, but there's already 2 lines on hold. So apparently somebody wants to talk to us this morning. We're going to get cracking on that first things first. But the phone number for you, if you would like to participate, this is a participatory sport, 907-433-3150, 907-433-3150. And both calls just dropped off the line. I had 2 calls on hold. I'm reaching up to take the first call, and it's gone. 907-433-3150. If you would like to sound off, we'd love to hear what you guys have to say. And just Firearms Friday is all about just the gun talk, the gun chatter. So feel free to dial in and get squared away, and let's get the ball rolling here, shall we? These 2 hours on Friday always seem to go so fast. So let's get cracking. All right, we'll head over to the phones right now. Got another call, and we'll see what you'd like to talk about on this beautiful Friday. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Ron in North Pole.
Hello, Ron. What's on your mind, my friend?
Well, I came across a rather curious thing day before yesterday. I was looking at red dot sights. And so I went to C&H Precision, which is one of the foremost providers of slide milling and red dot sights and so forth. And I asked them about a sight I was curious about, a Holosun, and asked that they didn't have in stock. And so I sent them an email asking if there was a chance that might come into stock in the foreseeable future. The next day, I received an email from those folks saying that no, it would not, and that they would be discontinuing the sale of all Holosun products when their current stock was gone. And I just thought that was rather strange and wondered if anybody else had any information about it. And I will add to that I think most folks know that Holosun is in fact a Chinese concern.
Right. Well, that's a good question. I mean, I know there's been a lot of pushback lately. We saw the whole thing with TikTok going on, and, worry about, Chinese students who are coming in and, that are spying, essentially, Chinese individuals who've been working for the military, who've been passing secrets. And I mean, there's a lot of worry there. And of course, the Chinese product category has been a big problem for a long time, and people are concerned about that. They didn't give you any reason, Ron, for why they were discontinuing it, just that they were just discontinuing all Wholesun products?
No, they did not. And I was kind of hoping by calling you that perhaps somebody out there has also had contact with those folks and could provide maybe a little more insight into what's happening.
Well, we'll see if somebody else is. I had not heard that. I have not heard anything about that. Maybe I could assign you some homework and you can send a reply and ask them why they're dropping Wholesun. Just, maybe you can report back on that down in the future. But sometimes it's a quality issue. Sometimes it's a pricing issue. Sometimes it's a political issue. I don't know what it would be. But I, too, get a little concerned sometimes when I'm looking at the variety of products that are coming through that are made, overseas, specifically in China. I get a little worried about that. But, yeah, maybe you can find out for us.
Well, we'll take a look.
All right. Thank you, Ron, for your call. I appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts with us. I'm not even familiar, quite honestly, with the Wholesun brand. But that doesn't mean anything. There are plenty of brands out there that I'm not familiar with. And I know a lot of people poo-poo some of the cheaper products out there. They're like, if it's not EOTech, if it's not Night Force, if it's not one of these, then I just don't even, well, okay, well, that's great for you. But for those of us that would like to go out there and practice and can't afford $1,000 sight for our $500 rifle, maybe a cheaper alternative was, I've used Tasco. I've used all different kinds of cheaper sights and reticles and things like that, simply because that's what I can afford. So don't poo-poo, don't hate the player, right? Just don't poo-poo it. But if we start to see a squeeze on some of these things, like we saw previously on some European stuff that we couldn't get anymore. And I'm thinking, this is back in the Obama days when they outlawed things like ammo from Russia and some other things. That's detrimental to all of us. But, all right. We're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Dukes Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Phone lines are open. And we're looking to see what, Brian says, tried to do a construction job and avoid Chinese parts. Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's hard, definitely hard. We're going to continue here in just a moment. It's Firearms Friday. Back with more right after this.
If you missed the show, you can listen to it on your time with Dukes On Demand. Oh, and it's free. Like America used to be. Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. Welcome, my friends. How are you guys doing? You guys all ready for the big weekend? I'm ready for just a weekend. I mean, I know I took Monday off, but part of that was, of course, travel and downtime, and I was still on the phone half the day with doing business and taking care of clients and doing all that stuff. So it was a day off, but it wasn't really a day off, right? Kind of thing. I just didn't have to get up at 4:30 in the morning to do the show, and then, driving and doing all that. But it is so I'm looking for a couple days of doing absolutely nothing. I mean, I just kind of I've already got it planned. I mean, I got a few projects around the house that I can piddle around with and work on, but am I getting soft? You bet I'm getting soft. I'm tired, man. I remember in even 10 years ago in my mid 40s, I was like, go, 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 go. And I'm still kind of a go, go, go guy, right? I'm still going 12 hours a day. But there are times when I reach the end of my rope and I'm like, I'm tired. And I'm thinking, what am I going to feel like when I'm 70? If I feel this way now, what am I going to feel like when I'm 70? Oof, got to find that pep in my step again sometimes. But getting a little soft. Don't like the cold anymore. I didn't care about the cold in my 20s, 30s, and some, early 40s. But now I definitely care about the cold. And also, I'd like my downtime. And I don't feel guilty anymore. I used to feel guilty on the weekend if I took a day just to do nothing. Now I have no guilt over that. I'm like, I did it. 60 and done is my deal. Anyway, 60 hours. So we're going to take some phone calls here. We're going to take some calls and then see what else we're going to do. I want to dive into some of these stories. I want to talk about zombie guns. I want to talk about that because there is so much hand-wringing over this. And when you find out what they really are, it's going to kind of blow your mind. But I do want to get into this discussion on, Toronto, also ridiculous. And I want to talk about the illegal alien and the firearm because there is I got some issues. I'm struggling a little bit with this. I am struggling a little bit with this whole conception. How about the People's Republic of Colorado and their silly ass assault weapons edict? I just can't with Colorado. I mean, what is wrong with those people? What is actually going on over there? Gordon says, old age is not for the weak. You are so true, my friend. You are so, so true. I'm about to hit the double nickel this year, and Is that my midlife crisis? Is the midlife crisis part of being just like, whew, man, I just am so tired of having to deal with this all the time. You could do this from anywhere, Mike, says Jim. Keep talking. That's true. I mean, that's the beauty of this job, is that I can do this from just about anywhere. I love it. But yeah, going to hit the speed limit this year, and going to be 55, and starting to think about what does it look like 20 years down the road from now. I'm hoping I got that longevity. I got parents and grandparents on both sides of the equation who've reached in 30 years beyond this mark, so maybe I will as well. But what does it look like? I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But you'll be along with me. You'll be along with me. You're just a young pup. I know. Don't let the gray fool you. People are like, oh, I'm only 54. Oh, well, I know. It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. It's the mileage. To quote the great philosopher Indiana Jones, it's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. All right, let's jump back into it. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the stuff. I got one line on hold. Caller, I'll be to you here in just a hot second. Here we go.
What the hell's an assault weapon? What isn't? If I assault you with a penguin, doesn't that make it an assault weapon? Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, I mean, assault penguins are a thing. I don't know if you knew that, but they're vicious. Assault penguins, man. All right, we're back. Phone lines are open. It is Gun Q&A all day. We're talking with anybody about anything firearms related. Love to hear what you have to say. If you disagree with me, love to hear what you have to say. If you agree with me, love to hear what you have to say. You sensing a theme here? Whatever it is, as long as it's gun related, we're opening the phone lines and the floodgates. 907-433-3150. Let's go over here right now and see what our next caller has to say. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
This is Brian calling you from the Hook.
Good morning, my friend. How are you feeling? You and your old age. How you feeling? We were just talking about.
I am upright. I am upright, and I am not crying, and that's why we have Advil.
Exactly. Thank God for Advil.
Yeah, I had an experience last week. I didn't really know how to answer the question, so I have a shirt. It says Celebrate Diversity, and it has a number of various types of handguns on it. I was in a business, and the young man that was waiting on me said, so which one's your favorite one? I had to think about that because I don't have a favorite. I have my favorite for carrying when I'm fishing. I've got my favorite everyday carry gun. I have my favorite bedside gun. So it kind of depends on the circumstances.
Right.
But then he went on to ask me what kind of rifle I would recommend. And I said, well, what do you want to do with the rifle? And he said, I want to shoot it. I said, are you thinking hunting or plinking or whatever? He goes, oh, no, just plinking. And so we talked a little bit about that. And he said, where can I learn to shoot? And now this one stumped me because I can tell you if you want to go take a combat pistol course, if you want a concealed carry, if you want to take a combat rifle or shotgun course or whatever, that I can tell you where to go. But I have no idea where a person with very little background in guns that just wants to learn, where would they go? Now, I could have said, hey, let's go shooting. But that would have been a little bit creepy considering he was younger than my youngest, and we didn't have any relationship other than the relationship in commerce.
Right.
So what would you have said? Where would you have told this individual to go learn just the very most basic things of firearms?
Well, that's a good question. Depending on where he lived, I know that in the Matsu Valley Sportsmen's Association has a indoor shooting range, and I believe that they still offer some basic shooting and hunting courses that include the basic use of firearms, including long guns in this case. I know up in Fairbanks that there have been several companies that have done something like that, and I know that the Fish and Game also offers a hunter safety course, which I believe, if I'm not mistaken, also includes some basic, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong here, but also includes some basic gun skills with a long rifle, just basic safety skills and how to shoot and things like that. And they up in Fairbanks, they have their indoor range as well. So Matsu's got their indoor range. There's one in Fairbanks. In Anchorage, I think I would have pointed him probably towards the Birchwood Shooting Park, because I know that they have some different classes. I think probably most of them are related to what you talked about, whether it's combat rifle or self-defense or things like that. But there's probably also some courses up there on how to shoot, some basic long gun stuff. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question because, again, most of the training that I am aware of today is more specialized. It assumes that you already have the basics, but that's a good question. Basic pistol courses are everywhere. I mean, you could find a basic pistol course in a lot of places, point blank firearms and self-defense. I know there's several people in Fairbanks who are doing it as well, but the long gun, that is a bigger issue. And I think, like I said, I think that maybe the Hunter's Ed or some of the different organizations may have access to something along that line. What did you recommend to him, Brian, for his plinking rifle, just out of curiosity?
I suggested that he either look at like a Smith & Wesson M&P in 22, or to look at one of the CZ bolt action, like the CZ, I think it's an American 504 or 507, something like that. They're a really nice gun. They're a little more expensive, but they're extraordinarily well made, and they're good, comfortable firearm.
Yeah.
He said he thought about an AR, but it had too many parts. I started laughing. You guys would just Google it, man. I'll teach you how to take it apart. YouTube's your friend.
Yeah, no, exactly.
So anyway, I like the CZs. You spend a little bit more money for them, but man, they're pretty well made.
Yeah, no, I think
they're pretty.
I think
pretty.
I think if somebody asked me that question, and if it was just for plinking, the CZ is nice. If you're looking for a bolt action, CZ Remington 700, you can never go wrong. They've got a variety of sizes and flavors, and it's a pretty reasonable amount for bolt guns. But I probably would, if he had no experience, I probably would have recommended a Ruger 1022, simply because it's cheap to shoot, it's easy to operate, it gives you all the basics, and it is the 1022 is a proven, accurate little gun. I think another suggestion,
the Winchester 458 or 458 Win Mag was not on the list.
Yeah, I was just going to say, probably we're not shooting no 375 H&H for you. I would also say that if somebody's willing to spend a little more money, getting an AR, some kind of generic, DPMS or M&P or Ruger AR, and then buying a 22 conversion kit is also another way. You'd spend a little more money.
That's a good, yeah.
But then you'd have both. So you get like a Black Dog.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, you get like a Black Dog Ordnance makes a 22 conversion kit with a drop-in. It's got a drop-in 22 bolt carrier, and you buy that, and it gives you one mag, and you could shoot 22 caliber. You can shoot 22 caliber rimfires through your AR all day, and then when you're done, you switch it back to the 223, and you're good to go. That's also a great combination. I've done a lot of teaching with the kids on an AR with that 22 conversion kit, and it just makes it so simple and easy. You got to clean them pretty good when you're done, but other than that, but anyway, it's a good question, Brian. I hopefully maybe people out there have the answer, and maybe some other listener knows of a program where next time you go back, you can tell the guy, by the way, you can go over and see somebody specifically. But yeah, I would think that the Matsu Valley Sportsmen's Association, maybe the Tanana Valley Sportsmen's Association, Fish and Game, BP, the Birch Park Shooting. I think those of Birchwood would be another one. So Anyway, thank you for the call, my friend. I appreciate you calling in and joining us today. All right.
You bet. You have a
I just cut him off. Thank you. I'll have a good day. Thank you so much. Let's go over here to the next call. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Morning, Mike. It's Fred. How you been?
Well, hello, Fred. What's going on down in hello, Fred. What's going on down in Rhode Island, my friend?
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. The reason I'm calling is I heard the whole thing on the radio on another station locally about the judge out there in Illinois with this ruling on the Second Amendment and illegal immigrants. And I'm not bashful about calling them what they are. Illegal.
Right.
But, the whole thing, and I know you probably got a whole different take on this from the broad sense of the Second Amendment from what I take on your introduction of the show today. However, you got to look at one thing. We don't know who these people are. And because we don't know who they are, and there are a number of people mixed in with the crowd that's coming across the border who are, one, terrorists, known terrorists. They've already caught a bunch of those. Two, gang people, MS-13 gang people related to the cartels down there in South America. And there's nothing good about that from any standpoint. And three, just in general, the fact that they're not supposed to be here to begin with. So they're already breaking the law by crossing the border illegally. So they're already criminal. They're already felons, And now we're going to turn there and allow them access to firearms.
Right.
This is judge. I believe it was Sharon Johnson Coleman is the judge's name. I mean, she's about as woke gets. She's really, off the Looney Tune fringe as far as I'm concerned. And she really, she's doing this. I believe her intent is not necessarily to give firearms to illegal immigrants. I think her intent is to make the Second Amendment so distasteful, so unacceptable, and so egregious to the American people that when it comes time to get rid of the Second Amendment, it'll be hands down, yes, we have to get rid of it because it's a threat, it's a danger and threat to everybody now if these illegal immigrants get their hands on firearms.
Right.
We should just get rid of the entire Second Amendment. And this is exactly, I think, their end game.
You could possibly be right, Fred. I mean, maybe there are some Machiavellian reasons why this judge has decided that. But to me, it begs a broader question, which we'll get into here in the next segment to talk about, and that is the question of who is covered by the Constitution. And being an absolutist, I have a thing for the nonviolent felonies disqualifying somebody from being able to exercise their Second Amendment rights. If you got a violent felony, okay, I can see.
Oh, I agree with you there. I totally agree with that.
But
if they're not violent, then they shouldn't necessarily be totally restricted in that sense. However, like you said, we don't know who these people are. That's the problem. And because we don't know who they are, but we know that who's mixed in with the crowd coming across. Do we really want to go down that road?
Right. Well, but Fred, I mean, that argument can also be applied to the American people. We don't know who any of these people are. We don't know them.
No, not necessarily. I mean, citizens are citizens. An illegal immigrant cannot be president of the United States.
That's true.
An illegal immigrant cannot be a voter. Legally a voter, even though the SOBs get away with it once in a while.
Right.
Slipping them through the cracks. Calling with names like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. They rename them when they go to the polls. However, we know who they are. They don't really have that right to do those things. I think the Second Amendment, as far as ownership of firearms goes, should be only restricted to citizens and legal immigrants with a residence, with a residence, established residence,
right,
in this country. Anything else is just no. We're giving away. We're already giving away what for what? We're giving away everything. That is something we don't need to be given. That should be reserved for citizens only.
Okay, so I mean, you're right in the fact that if that's what we want, things would have to change, including the Constitution, because the Constitution doesn't say that these rights belong to all citizens. They belong to the people, the whole body of the people. Now, remember,
the people. I think you have to go back and reinterpret the Second Amendment. I mean, the Constitution. Does the people mean citizens? Or does the people mean everything that walks, talks, crawls, and speaks a language?
Well, you have to remember back in the day when they wrote this, there There was no United States. This was the forming of the United States. And this also applied to people who came in after the United States and the ratification of the Constitution. So, I mean, they were pretty specific. They did not say citizens. They said the people. And if we're going to be constitutional absolutists or Second Amendment absolutists, we have to ask ourselves the question, does it apply to citizens and non-citizens alike? If people are here, and let's just say they came into the country legally. Let's say that they're illegal here. They're not a citizen yet. They have a green card. They're here, doing that. Should the same apply to them? Should they have the right to free speech? Should they have the right to?
They are approved. They are, protected under the Constitution and the Second Amendment. As long as they're established, they're vetted, they're established. We know who they are. They're here legally. They've established residency, and I think, in Rhode Island, I know it's after 10 years. That may have changed, but I think it used to be if you're here for 10 years, then you qualify for all Second Amendment, all Second Amendment privileges.
Yeah.
However, like I said, they had to jump through a few hoops to get there, but they got there. These people coming across the border, they don't even have identification. How can they do a background check? And they said, well, that doesn't matter. What do you mean it doesn't matter? I got to go through a background check to buy a firearm. You have to go through a background check to buy a firearm. And these people don't? Now, wait a minute. Stop right there.
Well, I mean, again, this is part of that conundrum. Like I said, the Second Amendment community is kind of at odds with each other because some believe I'm not decided yet myself, but I'm looking at all the arguments going back and forth. And like I said, if I'm going to be an absolutist on one thing, maybe I need to address that dichotomy in my own brain as to whether or not that should be. Not to say, again, I do believe that there is some chicanery going on here where these judges are trying to muddy the waters, and there's a lot of arguments. John Lott has talked about that this week and everything else. There are definitely some problems out there with that as well. Fred, I appreciate you calling in, but I am up against the break. You can hold on for a second here. We'll talk to you in the break, but we have got to go. We're going to be back with more in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. We'll return with more of your thoughts and phone calls right after this.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay, let's go back to Fred real quick, just to get his final thoughts on this, because while I believe that, he's not wrong in the fact that I have suspicions about the things that this is the second federal judge that has ruled that illegals can have the right to the Second Amendment and guns. And it's not like I don't believe that there are some ulterior motives in there. It's raised this interesting question about who is covered and who is not, whether they're here legally, illegally, whether they're immigrants, whether they're green card holders, whether they're full citizens. I mean, this is an interesting discussion. And I love to get people's thoughts on this. So, Fred, I'll give you the final word here, my friend. What are your final thoughts on this or anything else you wanted to hit on this morning?
Well, you pretty much nailed it, I think. The fact that, these people do not really have full rights, the way I look at it. They're here, first of all, they're here illegally. So that's already breaking the law right there, just by doing that. And then to sit there and give them full rights, no, and even the Second Amendment, probably the most egregious of the lot, because that they can go out and really do some damage to people. And that's something to be very concerned about. And they've already proven that. They're already buying guns off the street in the black market, and causing all kinds of problems. Driving around drunk, no driver's license, no registration, no car inspect, no nothing. And they go out and they're causing all kinds of havoc and hell. And now we're going to give them firearms. This judge, she definitely got to wake up and smell the coffee in the morning, because there's something very wrong there.
You're right.
The other final thought, not take up too much of your time, because I know you're busy. But, the final thought is we just had a hearing here in Rhode Island about once again, the assault weapon ban. And you get to talk to a few of these people on the other side of the issue. And I had the chance to do that this time around. And they are so hell-bent on just getting rid of these quote-unquote assault weapons, and they have no idea. They have absolutely, proved it to myself. They have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. It's just they got these marching orders. Just do it. Damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead to get rid of the AR-15s and the AKs and these so-called assault weapons. I mean, they're just blinded. They're just blinded by the BS. It's really a shame. But it's amazing how brainwashed they are on this issue. I mean, and you point every aspect out logically, specifically logically, in every other possible way. Show them that there's no difference between this gun and any other firearm, and they won't believe it. They just nope, we have to do it. We have to do it. We have to do it. Why? Because we have to do it. Well, this is insanity.
Weapons of war, right? I guess we keep hearing weapons of war. Those kind of phrases.
Well, they say they're totally brainwashed. I mean, they are truly brainwashed. This is like, the whole, oh my God, I don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say with that.
All right.
They are brainwashed. They are truly, marching off the cliff, and happily doing so.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I appreciate it. All right. Thank you. Thank you for, thanks for calling in, Fred. It's always good to hear from you, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right. You have a good week, Mike.
All right. Thank you. 907-433-3150. If anybody in the chat room wants to call in, and now's the time to do it. Let me go over here. Come on. There we go. Heaven forbid that we should enforce the laws of coming into this country illegally, but toss the 2A rights out is easier. Such an upside down world. I mean, it's a valid point to say you've broken the law to come into the country and you're a felon. But do you believe that nonviolent felons should have their Second Amendment rights stripped away? Do you believe that the Constitution protects only citizens or anybody, or is it the people, the group, the body of the people, all able-bodied men and women from the ages of 16 to, who is the militia kind of thing? It's an interesting discussion. I really have some questions. Jeannie says, here's the problem with legal aliens. They aren't illegal aliens, I think she's saying. Oh, okay. No, legal aliens. They aren't citizen. Illegal aliens are not protected by statute. However, Biden's answer to the illegal alien rush is to identify them and then pardon them and put them into limbo status. Unimaginably, though, though it's through its tenure at this point, it has passed 1 million pardons mark. Obama and Trump pardoned about 5,600 people each for a myriad of crimes. Biden is making this migrant crisis undoable. We're stuck with it. Yeah. I mean, is a problem. It's a problem for sure. Going through here. Where's the equity, says Brian. Where's the equity? Screaming for workers that are willing to work for low wages and sleep 15 to a house. What about benefits? Right. Medicaid for all of them. Punish the middle class more. Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right. Do the concepts of the Constitution apply to all people? Says Jim. And that's my question. Do the concepts of the Constitution apply to all people?
What the hell is an assault weapon? Does that mean that if we hurt your feelings, you should consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can accept that. Here's Michael Dukes. Kind of a dick, but somewhat funny.
I like to think of myself as something more than somewhat funny. I mean, come on. All right. Welcome back to the program. It is the Michael Dukes Show. Just to answer the question that Brian called up about in the chat room, several people have called up. I've mentioned, let's see. Gordon says the last hunter safety class that he took with his sons had a comprehensive firearms portion along with the 4 safety rules pushed heavily. So I think the hunter safety course is a good choice for people who are looking for some basics. Melissa says up in Fairbanks, the Tanana Valley Shooters Sportsmen's Association had a beginner's class for firing a .22 a few years ago. She says, I'm not sure if they have something for adults. She said she did it for her kids ages 10 and 12. And then Kathleen says the YMCA teaches riflery and skeet shooting. Alaska YMCA also has a BB gun range at Talkeetna. So I didn't even know that the YMCA did that. So there you go. There's some other choices that are out there that you can go look at and see if you want to help people get get familiarized with the shooting and see. This question that Fred has brought up is a good one, and of course the 2A community is divided about this right now as to whether or not this is a good thing or a bad thing that a judge has said that the Second Amendment does apply to this illegal alien. Jim asked the question in the chat room. He said, "Do the concepts of the Constitution apply to all the people? To all people?" And in my mind, I would say yes. Now, Jeannie says no. Jeannie says they historically do not apply 2A rights are for the citizens. But surprisingly enough, the word citizen does not appear anywhere in the Constitution. In the Bill of Rights, it doesn't apply. It talks about the people. So that, I think, is the biggest conundrum. Now, there, again, are good points that are being pointed out about this right now, and there's been pushback on both sides. I think that I could still agree that the Second Amendment applies to all people, including legal or illegal aliens. But at the same, from a perspective of principle, saying that the Second Amendment and the Constitution is sacrosanct, while at the same time still hold the belief that this judge is trying to muddy the waters and talk about a bunch of other stuff as well, and try and make it a problem. The biggest problem at this point is that what we're talking specifically about is a piece of U.S. Code, U.S. Code 18922 G5, which prohibits any non-citizen who is not legally authorized to be in the United States from possessing in or affecting commerce of any firearm or ammunition, or to receive any firearm or ammunition which has been shipped or transported in interstate or foreign commerce. So it's pretty specific. And that's the part that Coleman used when she granted the dismissal of charges against this guy, that said such a blank prohibition against weapons possession for a category of people can't withstand scrutiny under current Second Amendment doctrine. And this, in part, is where the Bruin decision comes into this as well, because remember, they have to find historically analogous examples of this kind of stuff. And going back to the foundation of the country, going back to the Constitution and the signing and everything else, there were a lot of non-citizens in this country. There were a lot of non-citizens, and whether it was they legally came in through Ellis Island or they just floated here and did their thing, whatever, there were a lot of non-citizens over the last 200 years that came in here and still had and used guns to defend themselves, to hunt, to fish, to do whatever. Granted, there were people that did bad things as well, just like there are citizens who've done bad things as well. But if you're going to go use, Bruin, I guess this is the other side of the two-edged sword for Bruin. If you're going to use historically accurate analogies to try and bolster your argument, then you have to go back and look at, Coleman, the judge, talked about British loyalists during the conflict of the Revolutionary War, and after, do they disarm British loyalists? Are they denied their Second Amendment rights because they believed they still had a loyalty to Britain? Were they technically citizens or were they not? Well, they were citizens of the colonies, but were they citizens of the then burgeoning United States? And again, this is a hard question to answer. In my heart, I want to say absolutely no. They're here illegally. They broke the law to get here. That makes them a felon. But if I'm an absolutist who believes that if a nonviolent felony should not preclude people from owning or using a firearm, and he still has to defend himself from certain elements, because I'm sure that there are illegal aliens that have to defend themselves from bad people, just like we do. Again, this is a hard question. I'm still not 100% decided in one way or the other. I can see both sides of the argument here. And it's bugging me because, I mean, I would love to be able to just basically say, this is it. Now, again, all that being said, doesn't mean that I don't see this as some in the anti-gun crowd using it as an opportunity to muddy the waters, so to speak. According to Brian Doherty over at Reason Magazine, he wrote about this article, wrote about this issue, and he said, in a curious case of letting culture wars or tribal considerations overwhelm legal thinking, gun scholar and generally tenacious defender of a hardcore interpretation of the Second Amendment, John Lott, is suspicious that this is just, quote, an Obama judge acting in a very calculated way to try and create problems for interpreting the Second Amendment, unquote. I would not disagree with that, but it still raises the bigger question. Does the Constitution cover only citizens or the people? We the people. And is it we the people? It's an interesting discussion. And like I said, I am not 100% sure yet. I'm not exactly 100% sure where I stand on this. I really, and maybe that's wishy-washy of me, but I'm trying to remain principled to this whole idea of an absolutism for the Constitution and the Second Amendment. And it, I just don't know where I sit on this. I don't know exactly where, but I do know that this is obviously causing some confusion. I mean, example, look at me. This is causing some confusion amongst people because I don't want to advocate for restrictions on firearms for any of the people. Jeannie says, my analogy falls short. The Loyalists were not Americans until the 1880s. Well, yeah, I mean, ostensibly they were all Loyalists by 1812 when the Constitution was ratified. But, again, this is where Bruin can come back because there was no strict immigration control from 1812 to probably 1870. There was not any super strict immigration control. It was by 1860, 1870, they started having the Ellis Island things and all that kind of stuff. All right, we got to go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free-thinking radio. Back with more after this. Jim says, Jeannie, our rights are God-given. Does he not give these rights to all? He says, I'm split on this issue myself. And that's the truth. These are inalienable rights given to us by our Creator. Because again, we're talking about natural law, right? I mean, that's really, if you go back and, we're talking about Locke and, a lot of the philosophers of the day, and the founders were well-read men, and they were basically writing down a manual interpretation of natural law to say these are inalienable rights, not gifted by the government, not gifted by some higher, mortal power, but endowed by the Creator, inalienable. So if those rights are given at that point, should they not apply to all? And since, again, we didn't have a strict immigration policy in the 1800s, or at least until the latter part of the 1800s, what about all those people who were not technically citizens when they entered the country? Should they have been disarmed? It's a hard. I mean, this is an interesting discussion. Jeannie says, I'm not split. The nefarious fact is that military-age men are flooding across the border unaccompanied by their families, and now we're going to give them the right to take up arms against us. Okay, so I would just not say don't let the news of the day temper your principle on fundamental constitutional issues. I agree. What you're talking about is problematic and troubling. No doubt about it. Very troubling. But going back to the basis of the Constitution, does that still apply? I just don't know. Maybe we should treat it like we should treat the second like I say we treat the first. The answer to speech you don't like is more speech. The answer to people saying things you don't like is more speech. So maybe the answer to people you don't like having guns is more guns. More guns. Sorry, honey, it's a constitutional issue. More guns are required around the house. Maybe that's what it should be about. It's interesting. Interesting to say the least. History repeats itself. Yeah, the Second Amendment is in order of importance the First Amendment. It's the one right that allows all the other rights to exist at all, period. Illegal immigrants congregate in certain cities, acquire weapons, take over the city. There are enough of them. If you think it could happen. Well, this is true. I mean, you're not wrong. I mean, let's face it. If somebody went into, or a city where there's a massive bunch of illegals, got them all stirred up and then dropped off 25 cases of rifles and all the ammunition they could eat, yeah, it would be a bad time. Bad actors can do bad things. Do I think that is a possibility? Sure. Is it likely? I don't know. I am troubled by the number of military-age males that are transiting across the border without their family. No children, no women, guys from Syria, guys from China. These are all things that are going on right now, documented. It's not just stuff I'm making up in my head, documented. But it is, it is troubling. There's no doubt about it. I know people... As Toddy says, I know people who would love someone to tell them to buy more guns. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you 100%. With you 100% on that. The last battle of the United States was fought in United States Civil War was fought in Russia. I'm not familiar with that, Jim. Hit me with that. I'm interested to see what that is about. It's a fine balance between the universal right for a person to defend themselves and the culture in which the Constitution and amendments were written. It is a fine balance, and that's why I think people are having a hard time. Jeannie counters my argument about citizens not appearing in the Constitution by saying citizen appears frequently in U.S. Code 18. I don't care about that. Because that's an interpretation, and it may, and I think many of those laws that appear in U.S. Code 18, especially the 922 section, are unlawful and illegal and unconstitutional to begin with. So don't hold up the U.S. Code to me and say, well, it says it here, so it's got to be the Constitution is still the supreme law of the land. In my mind, that's what I'm saying there. All right, interesting discussion. All right, we're a minute away. The DWAC spat is approved. Trump. Who cares, Harold? If you keep saying things like you think that somehow I am a huge Trump supporter and all this other stuff, I could give two poops less. I could give less. I wouldn't even give poop for that. How about that? Does that make sense? All right, we're coming in. Hour 2 is dead ahead. Willie Waffle's going to join us at the end of the show. We got more to talk about. Let's get back to it. The Michael Duke Show, Common Sense Radio.
Whoa, buddy. Put that thing back in its holster. We haven't gone anywhere.
I don't understand.
Check out the MichaelDukesShow.com for information on how to get access to the podcast.
The Michael Dukes Show.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
Firearms Friday.
As Thomas Jefferson stated, it is the right and duty of the people to be at all times armed.
Say hello to my little friend.
I say that the Second Amendment is, in order of importance, the First Amendment. The right to keep and bear arms is the one right that allows rights to exist at all.
The Michael Dukes Show. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Firearms
From my cold, dead hands.
Friday.
Take my rifle, this is my gun. This is for fighting, this is for fun.
Firearms Friday.
Yeah, buddy. Firearms Friday, your chance to sound off on issues of a two-way nature right here on the Michael Dukes Show. Welcome back to the program, and thanks for coming in and joining us. Fridays are the days that we dedicate to the Second Amendment and discussions, to conversation, and everything else. We just spent the last 5 or 6 minutes in the chat room going back and forth talking about this issue of whether or not illegals should be covered by the Second Amendment. And as I said previously, I'm torn by this. I am torn because as an absolutist, on the one hand, I believe that the Constitution, it enshrines, it does not give rights, but right, the Constitution does not give rights. The government has no power to give you rights. Those rights are inalienable, endowed to us by our Creator. These are rights that are baked into the human person. Everybody gets them. And so if it gives the rights, it cannot arbitrarily take it away. At the same time, I am concerned about what's happening down at the border with the military-age males from a variety of bad-acting countries, including China and Syria and others, where there's no children and women, just military-age guys, well-dressed and coming across the border. That does concern me. But your thoughts on this. Feel free to call in this morning at 907-433-3150. 907-433-3150. I'd love to hear what you, I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. It's an interesting discussion. Now, I do know one thing, and Denise kind of outlines it here. She says in the chat room, Denise says, conspiracy theories, illegals of military age coming in. It's called an army, and we will have to deal with it. Anyone not preparing your families may want to reconsider. And I think that's, again, my whole philosophy in life is prepare for the worst and hope for the best. That's kind of always been my philosophy. Prepare for the worst and hope for the best, and all your surprises will be happy ones, right? Because you've already prepared for the worst. And what I'm talking about, especially with the immigration at the borders and the problems down there, is not just some fictitious. I mean, there's proof. The DHS themselves have said that the increase in the number of, like, for example, Chinese nationals and people from Syria and Yemen and some other places has increased. And the videos that people have been shooting at the border shows very clearly that most of them are military, the predominant, like 90+%, especially in some of these larger groups where they're nothing but military age men. It is troubling. And I'm glad I don't live down in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, California. I'm glad I do not live on that border, because that would be a very, very tough time of doing it. Harold just said, give some evidence here instead of anyone. I can't show videos on the radio, Harold. You'll go out there and find it. There's plenty of videos on this. And people can go out and, they shouldn't take my word for it. They should go out and find it for themselves. That's essentially what I've always said about this program. Don't take my word for anything that I'm saying. Go out and do the research yourself. If you're not too lazy to do it, you'll find it. That's kind of what it comes down to. But let me just tell you how we have a cautionary tale here. A cautionary tale that we should all take heart to and be listening and watching, because we do not want to go this way. And I'm talking about Canada. This is a story that has made headlines and been making the rounds for quite a while, for the last week or so, and I've been waiting to talk about it. It's troubling in the extreme, to say the least. In the Greater Toronto Area, what they call the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, there have been a lot of bad things happening to good people. In fact, the crime in the Toronto area, overall crime, car crime and everything else, but overall crime in the Toronto area has spiked 150% in just the last 4 years. But the worst statistic, according to Global News, is the fact that the culmination of home invasions that are related to the theft of automobiles has increased 400%. Let me just say that one more time. 400% in Toronto. And what are the police's answers to this? What are the police's answers to this kind of problem? Well, this is going to be in two parts. The first part is a community meeting that took place a few weeks ago, where a police officer decided to offer some helpful advice to those in the community who were concerned about the number of car thefts, home invasions. They've got a carjacking problem. Their carjackings increased from something like 3,000 a year to 12,000 carjackings a year. Carjackings. So car theft is on the rise. There's a big market for stolen used cars, and so this is, and that of course answers one of the questions about the 400% increase in home invasions related to car theft. So they were having a community meeting, and people were asking questions, and they had police officers there, and a police officer in Toronto gave the homeowners some very helpful advice. Here's what they had to say.
There's also updated advice for all vehicle owners, a message echoed by Toronto Police speaking at an Etobicoke safety meeting last month. Constable Marco Ricciardi had a new message for vehicle owners who keep their fobs in Faraday pouches.
To prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at your front door, because they're breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else. A lot of them that they're arresting have guns on them, and they're not toy guns, they're real guns. They're loaded.
That's why Galinsky says they will be installing the door stops and taking YPR's advice seriously. But she'd like more action from police as well.
She'd like more action so the answer is, don't play, because car thieves are getting kind of high tech, right? Because everybody's they don't have keys anymore. They're fobs, right? And what they are is they're RFID fobs. They've got a radio frequency ID inside of them. So when you hold your fob next to your car says, "Oh, you're here." It allows you to unlock the door. It allows you to start the car, et cetera, et cetera. There's been plenty of cases where criminals have been seen on video cameras and rings standing outside people's bedrooms with a little box in their hands. That box is a near field reader, and it reads your key fob that's in your pants pocket or on your dresser or on your front thing. And then they walk back to the car, and it retransmits that same code, and they'll steal your car right out of your driveway with a little box that they built at Radio Shack, right? So what people have been doing now is they're putting their key fobs in a little Faraday pouch, which is a pouch that blocks all radio and electronic signals. That's been the answer. So people don't steal your cars, you do that. So now the cops are saying, leave your keys in the front, by the front door, not outside, but in the front of your house, because they're going to come in and they're going to, but I mean, that's the answer. The answer is, well, why not give them some milk and cookies while they're there? Would you like a foot massage before you steal my car? This is their response to this. And oh boy, howdy, was there a backlash on this. There was a huge amount of backlash on this. Understandably so. And by the way, I thought that he said these criminals have guns and they're real guns and they shoot real bullets. I thought that guns were outlaws in Canada. I thought guns were illegal in Canada, yet the criminals still have them. Well, that's unbelievable. Unbelievable that you've left the citizens disarmed and now have a 400% increase in home invasions related to car thefts. So, okay, so the people were outraged, as they should be. I mean, that is just the most amazing response that I've ever heard, right? So the police chief held a press conference a couple weeks later after this. Well, the story that meeting took place about a month ago. The story came out. People were outraged. The police chief got up and made a response. Now, it was a 17-minute press conference, which was supposedly about this. He spent 14 of the 17 minutes talking about the Israeli-Gaza conflict and how that's, there's hate crimes and all this other kind of stuff. It just had, and then he finally got to the question of, what do you say about this thing? Here is the police chief's response to that advice. Listen to this and just ask him, is this as big a nothing burger as I think it is? You tell me. Here's what the police chief had to say. The reporter's going to ask a question in the middle of that, but here's the police chief when asked about this advice.
Well, listen, we're certainly aware of the backlash. That's something that happened in the context of a community meeting many weeks ago now. And I think the service has been very clear. We have a number of crime prevention tips that we provide. We've published them quite broadly, and there are things for residents to consider in how to protect themselves from this type of criminality. And again, important for me to stress that we continue our efforts to not only disrupt, but actually arrest, apprehend, and hold people accountable who are committing these types of crimes, and we're doing so on a very significant scale.
So, Chief, should people be leaving their keys by the door? Just like, what is your take on that advice that was given? Is that something people should be doing?
I think the service has been very clear. There's a number of crime prevention things that people can consider. And again, I draw your attention to our website. Use, good thinking around your own environment, cutting hedges back, making sure the lighting is good, parking your car in your garage, etc. There are a number of things for residents to consider to prevent this type of activity.
So I think I've been very clear on this, although you were as clear as mud. And we'll point you to our website where all the advice is. Another officer was talking about changing your routine. Make sure you don't go home the same way. Make sure you park your car in a different direction. Make sure you park your... I mean, it's just all these things where it's like, these guys have got guns, handguns, which again, so heavily restricted in Canada that, and there's actually even another story about another person who said, well, that advice doesn't work because my car has got extra security measures on it. And so he says they showed up in his bedroom with his wife and he got into a scuffle with him and the gun discharged, almost killed his wife. He said, this is not working. This is not working. It's crazy. It's insane. All right. I want to go to the phones. I've had some phone lines on hold. I wanted to get through this just to play that for you because wow. But let's go over to the phones real quick and we'll get started with one caller before we go to break. We've got two calls on hold. So hold the line, caller. Let's go over here and start off with caller number one. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Ron again.
Hey, Ron. What's happening?
I got to the bottom of the Holoson question.
Okay, hit me with it.
It comes down to a private company in business to make money, not wishing to compete with itself.
Oh, they're making their own version?
We recently developed our own line of red dots, as well as having issues with getting shipments from Holoson.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. I mean, that's a perfect answer. If they're going to provide a product that they're manufacturing themselves and they can control a little bit better than what they do for the imports, that makes total sense. So I'm all about that. So that's good news. That's good news, Ron. And that's all right. C&G, right?
Have a good day, Michael.
C&G?
C&H.
C&H. I knew it was one of the letters of the alphabet. C&H. All right. Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate you calling in and joining us today. All right. I do have one line on hold. Caller, please be patient. I'm going to be back to you. You will be first up in the queue when we return, but we gotta go. Take a break. I accidentally overrun the end of the last hour. That was my fault. I looked away. Next thing I know, there it is. But I'm confused. I'm conundred about the whole question of constitutionality and the illegal alien and the guns. And so I think give me a bit of a break on that. But we're going to continue here in just a moment. The Michael Duke Show continues. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio.
Our light, our guide, and our trusted friend. Michael Duke Show.
Okay, we're in the break right now. Let me go over to this caller just to get their name and confirm with them that they're going to hold on with me here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning, Michael. This is Carlene in Kodiak.
Hello, Carlene. Will you hold the line for me and be with me when we return to the air here in just a minute?
Yes, I'd love to.
Okay, good. I'm going to put the line back on hold. That's Carlene in Kodiak. Let's see. Canada is heading towards third world status faster than California. It's true. Harold says, no wonder you carry a criminal at every corner. Shake my head. No, I'm not saying that there's a criminal at every corner, but when you have a 400% increase in home invasions and 150% increase in overall thefts and crime, that's a problem. When you go from 3,000 carjackings to 12,000 carjackings, doesn't that concern you? I'm asking for a friend. Just because I have fire extinguishers and smoke detectors doesn't make me paranoid. I don't stay up late at night worrying that my house is going to burn down, but at least I'm prepared for it. That's all I'm saying. Anyway. And the best part about living, this is Jeannie just said so. What? The best part about living on the road system, you actually can get a trooper if you yell gun while on the phone. Well, okay. I guess I've never had to call the troopers to my house, so I don't know. But my understanding is that the response time in my neighborhood is still about 30 minutes. So at minimum, about 30 minutes on average, right? Because maybe there's somebody on down KG, maybe not. But how dare you be prepared, says Melissa. Ditch those fire alarms. Your paranoia knows no bounds. True. This is true. No fire extinguishers, no fire alarms for me. Because, man, that just shows my paranoia. My paranoia is showing at that point. Terry says she has no sympathy. Canada did it to themselves. Well, this is true. I mean, Justin Trudeau, that guy. That guy is something else. Denise says, you need to laugh. Your face is laughing. The ridiculousness of this. It's just insane. I had one more piece to play that we're not going to have enough time to play, but I mean, this is there's a news hit here where they talk to this guy that he's basically saying now they're going to have to pay for their own home security in their neighborhood because of these problems. It's astonishing.
Tracy, the subjects of this story live in a quiet residential neighborhood just like the one we're standing in now, and that's where a lot of these cases tend to happen, not just here in Ontario, but across the GTA. The man we spoke to says not only is that advice absurd, but he says that he feels he and his neighbors are not being heard, they feel unseen, and now they're going to take their own measures to protect themselves.
I heard the bedroom door open. I shouted, jumped out of bed, and went towards them. I could see there were two. That's when they shot.
Peter and his family were the victims of a home invasion in the East End early Tuesday morning. He's certain they were there to steal his Land Rover, a replacement for a previous one that was stolen. When the suspect's gun went off that night, they narrowly avoided tragedy.
They went into the base of the bed and ultimately into the floor, just above where my wife was sleeping.
In his case, Peter scared the suspects off, but at a recent community meeting, a Toronto police officer told those in attendance to avoid the risk. Leave your car keys by the front door for thieves to find quickly. Peter says that doesn't work when you've got top-notch anti-theft measures.
And then having those people get the keys and not being able to steal my car successfully, forcing them to come up and put a Glock 9mm to my head, that's not a good solution.
It's not a good solution. That is not a good solution. I mean, this was the replacement Range Rover. He'd already had one stolen, and now they're... Oh, man. All right, we got a second line on hold. Carlene is up there first, and then we're going to go to the second call. And then I'm about ready for Willie at this point. I really am. I'm about ready for Willie. You're listening to this madness, the madness that is going on right now. Here we go. The Michael Duke Show. Common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Let's do it.
What the hell's an assault weapon?
You know, if we could just figure out how to get all of the murder guns and the attack guns and not keep selling those to people and just sell protection guns, I think that would be great and solve a lot of problems.
Does this mean that if we hurt your feelings, you'd consider the Michael Dukes Show assault radio? Okay, we can live with that. Here's Michael Dukes.
Yeah, assault radio. Assault. Show me where I hurt you with this radio show. Let's go back to the phones now. Carlene is down in Kodiak. We'll see what she has to say this morning. Good morning, Carlene. What's on your mind?
Okay, on Wednesday, March 24th, Charlie Kirk's show, 9:10 a.m., he had two segments about squatters. The interviewee was Flash Hunter at squatterhunter.com, and he said that people go to dinner, they come home, and illegals are there, and they can't do anything about it. They've moved in, or family goes on vacation, and they come home and find someone sleeping on the couch. They played a clip, and there was a translator, and an illegal was claiming about invading houses in the U.S., especially not inhabited. We can expropriate it. That will be my next business. But it's happening a lot in New York and California. They call the house owner calls the police. The police explains the squatter's rights to the homeowner. They can't do anything because it's a civil matter. And so Flash Hunter suggests that you document everything. You have cameras, and you prove when they enter the home. You need evidence, you need alarm systems, you need locked mailboxes. In New York, there's a 30-day rule that they automatically become the legal tenant. And okay, California, they go on vacation, they come home, and the squatter declares that they live there. They have jobs, they have money, they learn that they can live for free, they are not homeless. They are entitled. They have no remorse. The average person would leave the state or live in a tent. And then there was a lady that put an ad in the newspaper to rent a room. A guy showed up with a backpack, and then he just sat on the bed and wouldn't leave. She called the police. He had already put his clothes in the closets, and the police couldn't do anything. There was a chef on TV that did this, and sadly to say, the old lady took her own life.
Yeah.
So these are problems now, Michael.
It's a crazy thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Carlene. There was a video that was out on TikTok, 4 million views, of a guy telling people how to sneak into people's homes and become squatters and take up residence in the homes. It's got 4 million views on TikTok. And people are like, yeah, man, stick it to the people, stick it to the... I mean, it's just like, it's madness. It's absolute madness. All right, we go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Hello, Mike. It's Fred again. I won't take up too much of your time. I know it's a second call, but normally I don't do this. But this is kind of important because it sounds like you're having a little distress trying to figure out this whole thing with the illegals and the guns. I think I figured something out. we have, as citizens, we have to go through all kinds of background checks. True, we have to do the federal form. In some states, we have to do a state form as well, background check to be vetted.
Well, yeah.
As citizens to own firearms, right?
Well, if we're buying from a dealer, if we're buying from a private party, we don't have to. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, from a dealer, we have to be vetted. Now, in order for an illegal to do it, he has to have some type of identification so they can be vetted as well. And the only information we have on them is from their home country. So they don't have any information at all. And as an illegal walks into a gun shop and says, "I want to buy a gun," well, since these are my identification, they really don't have anything that's worthwhile from their home country, not from here, because they're not really from here, and they're here illegally to begin with. But if they don't have any identification, and this is one point the judge screwed up in, big time. She said, even if they don't have identification, they're still entitled. But no, if we have to go be vetted, they most certainly have to be vetted. So I think it's like a double standard, and it wouldn't fly. And this judge should be thrown off the bench anyway.
Well, let me.
However, that's one point you could probably make you sleep a little bit easier at night, knowing they can't do it without identification.
Well, let me play devil's advocate here. It sounds like what you're saying is you're advocating for the elimination of private sales. Because I guarantee you, this illegal did not go into a gun dealer to do it.
Private sale in this state, and as far as and not about Alaska, but in Rhode Island, handguns, and even some cases in some other instances, there has to be a background check.
Right.
We just can't sell it without having a background check.
That's
a deal.
Yeah, that's not how it is. That's not how it is.
In his books, and then turns it over to the party.
That's not how it is in Alaska. In Alaska, I can sell a gun to anybody. It's up to me to make sure that they're, I have always asked for ID whenever I've sold a gun to somebody, but it's not a requirement. So again, the argument there would fall in favor of eliminating private sales, and that would be, again, problematic from my point of view as well, Fred. I mean, I see your point. I definitely see your point. It's why I'm struggling with this in so many ways. I appreciate it. Thank you, Fred, for calling back. We got 2 more lines on hold. Let's go over here. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Good morning. This is Al from Fairbanks.
Hey, Al. How you doing, my friend? What's going on?
I'm doing excellent. So your conundrum with your Second Amendment rights and being a purist, I would say with that ideology that you should stay consistent and the rest of the Bill of Rights also apply.
I mean, that would follow. That would follow if that's the case. I would agree with that. If the Constitution is sacrosanct and it applies to all people and their inalienable rights, then all the constitutional protections would apply. Yes.
All right. Well, that was my 2 cents on it.
All right. Thank you, Al. I appreciate you calling in and joining us.
Yeah.
All right. We head over here. One more call before we run out of time. Good morning. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Michael, this is Bull. How you doing today?
Good, Bull. What's on your mind, brother?
Well, you're arguing a moot issue. You're tying up your time arguing something that's irrelevant. Our country is being invaded. Our government is allowing it to happen. I would highly recommend everybody listening get a copy of the Declaration of Independence. You've read it, haven't you, Michael?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I have.
Okay. Every place the Declaration of Independence says the King or England inserts our current government. And think about it while you read it and ask yourself, do those words fit? This country is doomed because the large majority of the people love their wealth much more than their liberty. Our rights they're gone. Read the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments. There's not a single one that anybody in this country has anymore. Not in their true originalist meaning.
Right.
And as long as we argue about mundane things, like can some invader who, when he comes in here, breaks the law by coming across our sovereign border. As soon as he gets a job, he's broken the law because he's stolen somebody's social security number. And that judge never even mentioned where the gun came from.
Right, I know. I found that interesting.
Was it stole?
Yeah, that I found that to be interesting. Did they buy it on the secondary market? Was it a stolen gun? I mean, it's a valid question, Bull, and I agree. And I agree that there's a lot of problems.
You see my point?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I've often said that if the founders were alive today, they'd probably be in some tavern talking a little treason. You know what I mean? So I agree with you on that. Bull, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. We're out of time. We got to go. The Michael Duke Show continues. Willie Waffle is up next.
Streaming live every weekday morning on Facebook Live and MichaelDukesShow.com.
Okay. We are in the break. We can kill the phones now. Shall we kill the phones? I think we shall. Let's click. I got a few clicks here. There we go. Goodbye. All right. Phones are down. We'll pull that off the thing here. We're going to talk with Willie here in a minute. Let me change the colors. I love the colors. Let me change the colors. And we'll get you guys' final thoughts on all this firearm stuff before we jump over to the entertainment review. All right. Let's go back over here. Denise says, cool. I got family from Mexico and a husband who is native. All are legally here. Love immigrants. Illegals need to get in line and wait. I would agree with that. Jeannie says, the question is, what are they doing with all those cars? I clipped that I was doing a bunch of research on this yesterday when I was clipping out some of these audio bits. And there was a whole commentary section from a guy who was talking about the proclivity of the stolen car market and how stolen cars are hot these days. I mean, that not to be too punny about it, but that they can get a lot of money for stolen cars these days. And that's why you've seen this huge increase is that stolen cars, I don't know if they're chop shopping them. I don't know if they're retagging them. I don't know what's going on, but it's a big, big business. And a lot of the vehicles that they were showing there were definitely some higher end vehicles, Range Rovers, Audis, things like that. So a lot of that was going on in that discussion. So it's definitely crazy. Isn't vigilantism one step away from martial law? The Wild West days of our history seem to say it is. I mean, if people end up having to take the law into their own hands, that's obviously problematic. I mean, that's when you have a total and complete breakdown of what's going on when the people are forced to deal with that kind of stuff. And it leads to some dire consequences, a lot of as well. You know, that leads to some dire consequences for society as a whole, as well as, you know, we know that the groupthink, the mob mentality can be bad. So if you allow vigilantism to run rampant, some innocent people are definitely going to be hurt on that. So I'm not a fan of that. Not a fan of that at all. But it's great. I'm sorry. Jeannie says took her 3 months to get the squatters out of her Kenai home after she purchased it. They destroyed it. $50,000 later, it's livable. Oh my God. That is just that's so crazy. Jeannie says Bull is spot on. Denise says Bull is right. Jeannie says the Bull is spot on. Our government is facilitating this ground invasion. I would not disagree with that. I'm just I was born here. They send stolen cars overseas in containers, says Chris. I could be, I don't know what the mechanism is, but this guy was dead set at telling people exactly how that they were making. This is big business, a huge enterprise for those stolen cars. Brian just said, well, they should just ban high-end cars then. Oh, man. How is that just, how could that be possible? He wasn't even an immigrant. I don't know who you're talking about. Be like Baltimore. Blame the car manufacturers for not making them more theft-proof. Or be like San Francisco, right? Where they told everybody, just leave your doors open. Leave your hatches open on your cars if you're, to prevent criminals from breaking all the windows. Just leave the car doors open and let them just... I mean, it's madness. It's madness. Yeah, you don't want your cars broken into. You don't want them ransacked. You don't want them searched. Just leave all the doors open and the windows down because, that way they can get into it. We can get into it. This is the thing. Donna says, brief change of issue. Public testimony in House Education Committee this morning on Parents and Teachers' Bill of Rights. We need some folks to counter the pro-boys and girls bathroom and locker room advocates. The meeting's from 8 to 10 a.m. Harold was talking about the 6th grade teacher who liked to punch out his students. It's just wrong. I mean, look, not all problems come from immigrants, Harold. I mean, you got this absolutist mentality of if we start talking about something, well, then everything is that one problem that we're talking about. No, it's not. I mean, this is nuanced. There are shades of gray in all this kind of stuff, right? Quit taking this ridiculous absolutist view on everything that we're talking about. That's not what it's, that's what they do. Anyway. Yeah. All right. Phone's buzzing. I got to go. The Michael Duke Show, common sense, liberty-based, free thinking radio. Like, share, subscribe, ring the bell. Here we Okay. Oh, the weekend. Can you smell it? I can smell it. It smells like freedom. It smells like the weekend. I can smell it from here. It smells like cheese curds and popcorn. I don't know what it smells. What does your weekend smell like, Willie?
My weekend smells like popcorn. It smells like chocolate cake. It smells like sleeping in late. Yeah, that's the life right there.
I was thinking for my weekend it would be more like Prozac and whiskey. I don't know, something. Anyway,
my weekend smells like brandy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know who she is, but no, never mind. It's all good. All right,
she's a fine girl.
Yeah, that's right. What a good wife she would be. All right, let's.
That's right.
Let's get to the entertainment stuff, shall we? We got some stories. We got some news. What I gave you a homework assignment. What did I tell you to do last week? I've just totally forgotten right off the top of my head. I told you had to watch.
Forgot to.
I told you had to watch a series because it was so good, and you're like, okay, I will. And
yeah, you forgot. I mean,
okay,
you were the first to forget.
Okay, all right. I was the first. You forgot it like 5 seconds after we got done last Friday. So I don't know.
Maybe.
I'll have to go. Now I got to go back and listen to the podcast to figure out what it was that I told you to do because I was super excited to get your input on it, and I've totally forgotten what it was at this point. So maybe.
And then, like, as soon as you listen to the podcast, I'm probably going to get a text, and I want everybody to know this as they're listening. I'm going to get a text that says, incomplete. You failed.
Yeah, you fail. You get an F in that right there, right? And I'll make sure to send it when it's like 2 a.m. your time. Okay. All right. Yeah,
you're waking me up.
Yeah, I know. All right. So Willie, we got some news. We got the news out there. I'm interested in the bond news for the. We'll save the best for last. Give me what else you got going on here. Tell me what's happening.
We also have, and I'm sorry, this to me just proves to me that, I got to start dating a famous woman. So, Travis Kelce,
right,
of the Kansas City Chiefs, Super Bowl champion.
No.
Future Hall of Fame
You said
football player.
that wrong. Travis Kelce of Taylor Swift fame, because all his other achievements mean nothing, right? I mean, all this other stuff. I'm sorry. Go
It's
ahead.
true.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, he is in talks to become a talk show host, or not a talk show host, pardon me, a game show host. He is going to probably, we're waiting for them to make the announcement, host a reboot of the game show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader, for Amazon Prime. So Variety broke the story earlier this week that it'll be some sort of kind of celebrity version where either the celebrities will be the contestants or it'll be Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity? It's kind of up in the air right now.
Oh, I see.
I like the idea that the celebrities would be contestants against the fifth graders.
Well,
I think that would be perfect.
I guess it all depends. I mean, if you're competing against fifth graders in Alaska, you got a pretty good shot since we're 48th and 49th out of the country and reading and math and all that kind of stuff. But I have caught an episode of this show back in the day when it was playing, and it was kind of entertaining, but it also it's also kind of sad. It's kind of sad commentary on our life today that a lot of adults just maybe they don't remember, maybe they weren't taught. I don't know, but it's kind of sad when you're not smarter than a fifth grader, especially with the scholastic achievement scores of fifth graders across this country. That's kind of scary.
I've been thinking a lot about this kind of subject lately. I'm not going to lie, where we have now become a society where it is so much more important to be good looking than smart, because we've got things to make you smart. Don't know the answer to something? Whip out your phone, look it up.
Yeah.
Hey, don't know how to write a college essay? Let the AI do it.
Right.
I mean, we're really substituting all those things that used to make you a valuable person in society.
Right.
And we're replacing it with, well, I look good in these pants. And I really do honestly worry about this.
I think that's legitimate. I mean, look, I barely graduated high school at one point, mostly because I was bored. But I never stopped learning. That's one thing I do pride myself in, is that I continue to learn about everything that interested me to this day. I still do. I read a lot of stuff that it just probably has nothing to do with nothing, but I want to know about it. And so I'm always educating myself. I just do not understand this whole thing where people are like, I just don't read. I don't do this. I don't do that. And I'm like, I mean,
right.
but they can tell you everything that the Kardashians, they can tell you every Kardashian in order right now. We actually I have a new segment on the show called Doomed, where I play some of these man on the street interviews that are just so freaking painful.
Oh, man.
And one of them, the guy was asking her, I can't remember what he was asking her, who fought in the Civil War, and so just these really basic questions. And then he said, and she failed everything. And he's like, can you name the Kardashians? And she just ripped him off one right after the other. And it's like,
oh no.
We're doomed, man. We're doomed. So
I am very worried.
I don't know if this would be good or bad. Although I'd like to see the Are You Smarter Than a Celebrity thing, because I think it'd be great to show you how stupid some of these celebrities are, quite honestly. I mean,
not the ones that show up on the Celebrity Jeopardy, the ones who are ducking that. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
The ones who don't make it on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune,
right.
Or the Celebrity $25,000 Pyramid.
Right.
Those are the people I want to see.
Yeah, no, exactly. Look, I mean, there's smart people in all professions. I mean, there are smart people out there, but unfortunately, it seems that the majority of our public is idolizing the people who are dumber than dirt, and it just bothers me. I'm with you. That's why I started that segment, which reminds me I got to pull some for next week. But it just reminds me that we got college kids that they are interviewing people on a college campus, and they can't name any of the framers. They can't name who fought in World War II. They can't name, I mean, it's just like one thing after another. And you're like, these kids they're paying $35,000 to $70,000 a year, and they can't name who fought in World War II. What is wrong with this picture?
Yeah. Or, my other favorite, we don't know how to learn. That, if somebody doesn't explicitly tell me how to do something, I can't figure it out.
There's no problem solving.
It's not even so much right. There's no problem solving, and there's no just initiative to look things up and find out about them. I mean, I used to love like, you know, you'd be watching some TV show and they'd make some reference to something you didn't know. Well, I'm going to go look it up and learn
I
it.
do that all the
Rather than,
time.
you know,
Dude,
yeah,
all the time. I've got my phone right
Yeah.
there. I'm not one to sit there and surf my phone while I'm watching TV. The only time I pick up my phone is if they say something or use a word or some reference that I don't get. I'll pause it. I'll look it up. I'll understand the full context. I'll move on. That's how it is. Anyway, sorry. We should be doing entertainment, but good luck to Travis Kelce. I mean, you know, good luck, my friend. I hope you make a mint out of it. All right, John Bon Jovi. And that's my jam. I mean, that's my high school career is John Bon Jovi, but he may be done. He may be done doing tour. He may be done singing.
Yeah, you know, this is a really weird story that's kind of come out. You know, right now they're ramping up. There's going to be a big mini series about the band Bon Jovi on Hulu that's coming up. He's going to put out a new album in June called Forever. And he said, "Listen, this has actually been very difficult. You know, what people didn't know is that back in like 2022, he had what is considered very major vocal surgery, and it really put his ability to sing in doubt. He explained that, you know, the only reason they could do the album is because he had to do it like one song at a time, you know, one day at a time. Like, you know, he just can't go the way he used to. He doesn't know if he can tour anymore. He says, I really don't think I can go out there for 4 or 5 nights in a row in some stadium for weeks at a time touring, because of all this damage that he had. And you know, he explained that, you know, basically his vocal cords, you know, the medical term for me is got messed up.
It's
So he had
atrophied, right? They atrophied,
yeah.
right?
Yep. Well, one had atrophied and the other ones had thickened to make up for the one that atrophied.
Oh.
So they had to do the surgery, basically an implant on the vocal cord that had atrophied, so that he could even like sing again. And he's done a little bit of singing in public recently. He's going to be in a tribute to Jimmy Buffett in April. But, you know, he's really like, you know, don't expect Bon Jovi to hit the road. I mean, they'll probably do it where they'll do maybe 1 concert a week or 2 concerts a week, and really limit it. It's not going to be the way it used to be.
Well, I mean, you know, we all age. I saw a picture. There was a cover picture that crossed my feed the other day. That was a picture of Tears for Fears. Remember the band Tears for Fears?
Yeah.
And it was that cover photo where it was their headshots and they were kind of sitting beside each other. Well, they recreated it, and dude, we're old. I mean, we are old. They look like
is harsh,
2
man.
old men. I mean, it was so crazy. They just recreated the photo, and it was creepy as hell. Anyway, we're all getting older. That's all we can do. It's the only thing we can't stop. All right, well, let's move over to Bond, James Bond. And there's new rumors flying about who may be the next James Bond after Daniel Craig has hung up the Walther PPK. What do we got?
So any minute now, allegedly, we are going to get an announcement that the new James Bond will be Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Which is a name most of us go, what? Who? What? Where? Right?
Yeah. So now you may have seen him. He was one of the twins in Avengers: Age of Ultron. Okay.
Yep.
He was one of the bad guys in Bullet Train. He played John Lennon in Nowhere Boy. And I think I can say this on the air. He was the hero of the movie Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
So, you know, he's been around. He was a kid actor who's grown up since then, and, you know, and now has the opportunity to be James Bond. And I'll say he's a good actor. You know, I think, you know, James Bond, he will fill the role very well. You know, I think that he could surprise people a lot like our last James Bond did. You know, I mean, we just didn't think James Craig was going to be that Bond, and they changed it, and they made Bond that tough guy, that macho guy,
gritty.
Craig really fit the role.
Right. Yeah. Daniel Craig he's really kind of the gritty James Bond. I told you earlier that I did not think Aaron Taylor Johnson, I would not have picked him out of a lineup as a James Bond, but I don't know. I mean, stranger things have happened. You know, we thought that the perfect James Bond would be Pierce Brosnan, and turned out, no, that was not it. I mean, you know, so
he was fine. He was
good.
you know, he should have got it like 6 or 7 years earlier, if Remington Steele had let him out of his contract to do it.
Yeah, exactly. He probably would have been better then. All right. Well, let's move on to the movies. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. It's another
Yes.
Is it a remake? Is it a reboot? Is it a sequel, prequel? Is it retread? Give me the deal here.
So it is a continuation of the original Ghostbusters. For those who did not see Ghostbusters Afterlife a few years ago, it turns out that Egon Spengler, played by Harold Ramis, had a family that we never knew about, and a very smart granddaughter and a grandson who at least is very daring, and a daughter that kind of never had him around. And well, they got lured to where he died, and they solved this big mystery, and they took out all the ghosts, and now they're the Ghostbusters. And they have headed to New York City. They have taken over the old firehouse, and Dan Aykroyd is there to kind of help them along. And Ernie Hudson plays now. He's gone on to become this massive corporate titan who's funding all of their efforts. And it turns out there's an evil force that wants to take over the planet, and only the Ghostbusters can stop it.
And his name is Vigo. No, Zool. No, Vigo. No, Zool.
Well, they kind of did Zool in the last movie, if anybody saw it. This one's a new one where like somehow he freezes all of society to absolute zero, so that it now becomes a society of the spirits and of the other realm. And well, that's not good for us human beings, because we can't live when it's that
right.
cold.
Exactly. So -1 to 4 waffles. What do you think of Ghostbusters Frozen Empire?
I'm at 2.5 waffles. It's funny. It's entertaining. It's kind of drawn out. The whole story about this other ghost is almost secondary to the fact that you just want to see him doing ghost busting stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Cross the streams, please. Cross the streams. All right, we got about 90 seconds here. The new remake of Roadhouse, Amazon Prime. This thing's full of controversy, by the way, but give it to me.
It is. Jake Gyllenhaal now is Dalton, and he's moved down to the Florida Keys, where he finds a lot of trouble, and he's running as the bouncer of a bar that the evil rich people in town want to take over, and now he's got to fight them off. And one of the henchmen is played by Conor McGregor. Listen, it's just as crazy and stupid and entertaining as the original Roadhouse. I'm at 3 waffles.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, tons of controversy around this thing. They were going to delay it. They did delay it. They were going to move it. There were suits going on. The original writer was suing. I mean, this thing's just a hot mess. So anyway, 3 waffles. Okay, it's on Amazon. I'll go watch it for free. We'll make that work. Willie Waffle, wafflemovies.com. Thank you, my friend.
We'll talk to you next week.
And next week we've got...
If I could remember, I would tell you. Oh, it's Kong and Godzilla next week.
Such a memorable...
I just remembered.
Just a memorable...
It's Kong and Godzilla next week.
Okay, I'm excited. Kong and Godzilla. All right, folks, we're out of time. We'll see you on Monday. Have a great weekend. Be kind. Love one another. Live well. Yeah, I mean, let's revisit real quick the Roadhouse controversy, because man, I guess there was talk that this movie might not even have been released at some point, right? Because I mean, they were having some serious issues with this.
Tons of stuff. I mean, the first big problem was that Doug Liman, the director, who's a pretty well-known director. I mean, he's done some of the Matt Bourne movies and things like that. And he got the job to direct this, and was upset that it didn't get a theatrical release, because that was kind of the promise, that they would put it into theaters. So he was going to remove his name from the movie. And then he showed up at the South by Southwest Festival last week, where it premiered, and I don't know, I guess all has been forgiven, or at least he realized, hey, this thing's going to be popular and get a lot of news, and I'm going to go along for the ride.
Well,
the second controversy...
Well, I was just going to say, before you jump on to the second, I was just going to say, part of the reason why he's so upset about no theatrical release was, I'm sure that in his contract, he probably got points, meaning he got paid on theatrical releases. He would have made more money, and all of a sudden to yoink the rug out from underneath them is kind of sketchy. So, I mean, I just wanted to say that this was really a money issue as much as anything else.
Yep. Then you throw in there the original writer feels that he got ripped off, that they stole the original Roadhouse, and they took too much of his original movie, and while they're trying to pass it off as some like reimagining, he's saying no, it's a remake, and has lodged all sorts of protests. Was trying to sue to block the release of the movie. That hasn't happened. And it's hard to prove that. Time and time again, you will see these cases where plagiarism is essentially almost impossible to prove. And you fight this Hollywood system, and you oftentimes lose.
Yeah, because you don't have a 15th floor full of lawyers, is why you usually lose on that thing. Although I wonder how often the studios might just put a little hush money on the table and say, just go away, and maybe somebody gets paid.
That's usually the solution.
Yeah.
Heck, I think even half the time that's what people are hoping. It's like, if I make enough noise, maybe they'll just pay me to go away.
Well, but again, it is. I mean, it is legitimately. If this was his story and they didn't depart from it very much, and it uses the same names and it uses the same time. I mean, it's the whole theme. I mean, pay people for what they're worth. I mean, come on.
And one big part of all this is that the rights were going to revert back to him if the movie hadn't been made by a certain date. And his allegation is they didn't finish the movie on time
because of the writer's strike and everything, right?
Because of the writer's strike and everything. And he says, "Listen, you owe me more money now. Like I own all the rights, and you didn't take advantage of the window that you had."
Yeah.
So.
And it's not my fault that you drug your feet until the writer's strike happened. That's really not my problem, kind of thing. And I agree with that. I mean, if that's, what it is, and it's your intellectual property, you should get paid. So, I mean, that's how it works. Well, good. I mean, but at least it's a good movie. I mean, is it Patrick Swayze, Sam Elliott good, or is it?
No, it's not that good. Because I'm sorry. Roadhouse to me is the classic like cult movie that it was okay in theaters, like it did some business, but I think about 99% of us found it playing on cable, playing on HBO, playing someplace where you're just like, this is one of the dumbest movies I've ever seen, but man, it's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I'll say that they've got that going for it in this movie. I mean, Jake Gyllenhaal and all of his big fight scenes are pretty darn cool. Well, Doug Liman's a good director. He knows how to make those fight scenes look amazing.
Yeah.
Do it from different aspects. Do it from different angles. Really kind of bring some fresh life to fight scenes, which is hard to do because we've seen how many zillion fight scenes in our lives by now.
Right.
And Jake Gyllenhaal is a good actor. I don't think he gets enough credit for how good of an actor he is. And right here, he understands what the role is. He's the haunted bouncer. Why? Something happened in the past that makes him the way he is.
Right.
He knows how to kind of keep that just enough up towards the top of the surface to where you're kind of wondering what's going on, but he's not letting it get in the way of the performance that we want to see, which is he's going to kick some booty.
Right. Who plays the Sam Elliott character in this one?
Sam Elliott character. Oh God, it's hard to say because really they do a little bit different here, where he's training other fighters like to go into to become fighters, and they end up like helping out at the bar.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say there's like a Sam Elliott replacement here.
Okay.
And then Conor McGregor is the ultimate baddie.
Okay. Well, I'll be honest. I'm ready to go watch it. I actually haven't seen Roadhouse, the original, in probably 20 years. So maybe I'll have to go watch that one first and then watch the new one just to get a comparison. So, all right, Willie. Well, no homework this weekend, but I will be sending you a text. I'm going to go back and listen to that podcast. What was it? I cannot remember. Anyway, my friend, as always, it's great to talk with you. I'm looking forward to talking with you again next week. Okay.
You got it. I'll talk to you next week.
All right.
It's Kong versus Godzilla, or not Kong versus Godzilla. Kong and Godzilla together.
Oh, they're together. They're
together.
Dynamic duo. All right. Folks, we're out of time for reals this time. We will see you next week. Have a great weekend. We'll see you then.
shed our terrestrial radio skin, and now we are slimy lizard internet people. It's the Michael Duke Show.